Depraved. Adjective. Marked by corruption and evil. I can think of no better word to describe Levi Dane Simmons, or SnakeThing as most of the internet knows him. A major player in the Zoosadism Leaks, SnakeThing sought out to not only groom others into embracing darker and darker fetishes, but to push his own boundaries to the extreme. I'll probably feel bad after this pawing session, but that feeling goes away after a little bit, hence me slowly working up to fully accepting it. It's weird. I have a corruption fetish, but that also applies to myself. Fucking love it. I cannot explain how amazing this feeling is.
Being a kid slut is quite the promotion over a regular one. Trust me. Ha 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 ha. I sure don't see much action for being a slut or anything. True. That's why you're a kid slut now. Gotta get all them youngins and corrupt the fuck out of them.
SnakeThing's dark fetishes and extreme sexual appetite earned him many connections in pedophile and zoosadism rings in the furry fandom. He was an administrator for zoosadist Telegram chat groups, knew many names, and had many photos and videos of people committing sex crimes against animals and children. It was his depravity and connections that made him Zoodonym's primary target, and it was through him that the internet would be exposed to the horrors hiding just under the surface. From an early age, SnakeThing was exhibiting unhealthy sexual behavior and a lack of boundaries. When he was in school, he was kicked off the bus for sexually assaulting other students, and locals have accused him of rape. By the time he reached his teenage years, he was already dipping his toes into hardcore sexual content involving bestiality. As he grew older, he continued to push himself to sexual extremes until he was finding pleasure in the torture and killing of animals and sexual abuse of children as young as babies. He was especially fond of corruption, pushing anyone he came across deeper into the dark pits of perversion for his own amusement, often taking advantage of teenagers too naive or desperate to get out of abusive situations to know better. He made several friends both inside and outside the furry community who shared his interests, such as zoosadists like Wolf and pedophiles like Spark Dalmatian. Unable to leave his family due to being severely autistic and legally blind, SnakeThing abused those closest to him to satisfy his sick urges. He targeted his sister's dogs and his nephews, and made plans with longtime friend Sanji Natavis to groom the boys into their personal playthings. But being so reliant on his family for everything, including transportation, he lacked the means to act out on his heavier sadism fantasies. If he was to make those a reality, he would need outside help. And in 2016, he got it. A friend helped me. 'Twas a 10 to 12-week-old pup. She was pretty drugged up. That, and she actually loosened up rather quick. She was quite the slut. Fucked her throat myself, and large glass toys. Fucked her ass with glass toys, my hand, and myself. Fingered her softly on my end. Friend went rough with the fingering on his end. She wiggled and twitched and yelped and whined on occasion, even through the drugs. I was really nervous about it, but you have reservations, then you slip in and it, well, sort of melts away. When you get the chance to fully rape a pup like I did, I doubt you'd have reservations at that point. It was fantastic. Did you kill it? I didn't. Friend might have. I came so close to being convinced to do so, but I looked at her eyes a bit too much. I requested the pup be let off in town somewhere, but I don't know if he actually did it. SnakeThing's friend took photos and videos, some of which included his entire face and body. SnakeThing loved to brag and reminisce on this act, and shared some of the photos whenever he got the chance. The more people he told, the more word of his escapades spread, and at some point, Zoodonym learned of this. According to them, this spurred on a 2-year plan to break SnakeThing, and get their hands on everything he had. SnakeThing had learned to be quite the liar and manipulator to throw people off his tracks. He lied about his own mother, knowing he was a pedophile, to keep Sanji from alerting her to what they were doing to his nephews. He lied about feeling guilty for raping the puppy, and tried to place the blame on his accomplice to garner sympathy. He lied every time someone got too close to the truth. But once Zoodonym got their claws into him, he couldn't lie his way out anymore. Zoodonym never explained how they got access to SnakeThing's accounts, but while doing research for this video, I've developed a possible theory. Among SnakeThing's many fetishes was an interest in blackmail. He liked to play fast and loose with information, sometimes giving out the photos of him with the puppy and his full face, other times giving away damning information on people who trusted him, and other times giving away his full Telegram login information. It's possible Zoodonym exploited this fetish to get access to SnakeThing's accounts after spending those 2 years coaxing him into a false sense of security. But, as I said, this is just a theory, and with Zoodonym seemingly gone into hiding, it's doubtful we'll ever get a full answer. On September 16th, 2018, using evidence gathered from SnakeThing's telegrams, Zoodonym published a series of tweets outing various members of the furry fandom as zoosadists. They linked to the Telegram channel Zoosadism Evidence that contained logs of the conversations SnakeThing had with other zoosadists, and the photos and videos they shared among themselves. As with many people caught in the leaks, SnakeThing immediately began disabling and deleting his accounts across the net. His attempts to hide would prove more than futile, as he'd given away his real name in conversations with fellow zoosadist and pedophile Tane. Links to his real name were also found on his DeviantArt account, which was quickly tracked down after people going over the logs found his persona and furry alias. He was doxed by Kiwi Farms, and his numerous attempts to go back to Telegram under alts were quickly sniffed out. With his real name, location, and evidence of his crimes in hand, his local authorities at the Coos County Police Department were called, and an investigation into him was opened up. When Coos County Police went to the address given to them, SnakeThing and his family were nowhere to be found. It turned out the address Kiwi Farms had discovered was old, and neither SnakeThing nor his mother had lived there in nearly a year. Sanji got in contact with SnakeThing's mother to warn her, revealing what SnakeThing had done to the puppy in 2016, but hiding what the two of them had been planning to do to her grandchildren. Their conversation revealed SnakeThing had fled from home. When he returned is not exactly known, but based on upcoming events, we know he did. Maybe he will come clean to me. Maybe I can convince him to just go to the police, and I'll go with him. I know it's scary, but he has no survival skills. I don't believe in shielding people from the consequences of their actions. Please don't tell him I know, or he will run. I just want to talk to him. A group calling themselves the Furvengers got in contact with the lead officer on SnakeThing's case. They spent the next month working with Zoodonym and other leakers to compile all available evidence and information on SnakeThing and his numerous zoophile and pedophile friends, including evidence that had not been leaked to the public. On October 25th, the morning after the evidence was delivered to the Coos County Police and federal authorities, the lead officer went to SnakeThing's actual address. His devices were seized, and he was promptly arrested and placed in the Coos County Jail on charges for sexual assault of an animal, animal abuse, and animal neglect. With the police and federal authorities in custody of his devices that contained troves of zoophilic and pedophilic content, SnakeThing was surely doomed to spend the foreseeable future behind bars. It wouldn't cure the trauma and suffering he'd inflicted on animals and children, but at least he wouldn't have the chance to create even more victims. And he might turn on his friends, such as the man who helped him abuse the puppy in 2016, leading to even further arrests. The internet was hopeful this was just the beginning of the monsters outed in the Zoosadism Leaks facing their well-deserved justice.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, I was wondering if I could call and ask on the status of a current inmate.
Who's that?
Levi Dane Simmons.
He was released.
On October 30th, the Furvengers announced SnakeThing had been released from jail. He had not been bailed out. Instead, the district attorney had ordered the charges against him be dropped, forcing the police to release him. Unable to get in contact with the lead officer, the Furvengers could only speculate on the DA's reasoning. The primary theory was the evidence surrounding the rape of the puppy was too old for him to be prosecuted for, based on the statute of limitations. It wasn't known if this would also nullify their warrants for his devices. All the internet could do was wait for the officer to respond. After 2 days of hopelessness, the Furvengers finally got a call. It turned out their theory about the statute of limitations was wrong. SnakeThing had been released because the DA wanted to pursue further charges, such as child abuse and child pornography possession, distribution, and creation, the authorities would need to file charges against SnakeThing in order to keep him in jail. If he took a plea deal on the initial charges of animal abuse before they could get the evidence needed to add further charges, they risked him getting away scot-free on some of the crimes he committed in the chat logs. It wasn't an easy decision to let him go, but it was the best way to make sure he couldn't wiggle out of justice on some technicality. Nearly a year later, the investigation into SnakeThing continues at an agonizingly slow pace. Given the extent of his crimes and how they crossed not just state lines, but international borders, it may be some time before the hammer of justice falls upon him. SnakeThing's current whereabouts are unknown. The police alerted his family to the full extent of his crimes, so if he lives with his mother, she knows not to let him anywhere near a computer, her dog, or the grandchildren. He's not a flight risk, and even if he tried to run away, he couldn't get very far. It's doubtful any of his former accomplices would be willing to help either, as it would put them on the Fed's radar, if they aren't already there. All we can do now is wait, and live with the horrifying knowledge that SnakeThing may just be the tip of a much bigger iceberg.